So I want to talk to you about the education system, all right? Now, a lot of people are starting to understand that the education system in the United States, in the West, right, is really nothing more than just like a jail. It's like a prison for kids. It's set up similar to a prison, if you think about it. I mean, sure, you can escape, but you'll get in trouble if you do, and you'll usually get brought back and get reprimanded, right? And also the way that they use bells. So I just want to talk about the history of school in this country and why I'm thinking this way too, okay? And how you can break out of this educational matrix trap that we have, okay? Because I went to school, I went to high school, I went to middle school, I even went to college for 4 years, I graduated, I do have a degree, I went through the system, I understand it. But there's a book called The Dumbing Down of America by John Gatto, who was actually a teacher in New York City. He was an award-winning teacher. And a lot of the book that he wrote on critiquing the education system was basically his acceptance speech for being Teacher of the Year. So this is stuff that he was talking to people about in real life. Our education system is modeled off of a Prussian system. And if you don't know what Prussia is, that was like pre-Germany, basically like before World War One, but in like the 1800s. So Prussia was a country. And what Prussia was good at was they developed this education system that created very obedient workers and soldiers. And when the United States was founded, at first there was no public education system, and we've been brainwashed and propagandized as a society to make it sound like people were so stupid back then. But actually the literacy rates were like really high. It was more community learning centers, which is, I think, how it should be. It was almost like a rudimentary kind of like homeschooling, where you would have like teachers, but like community teachers with small groups of people learning. And what happened was eventually, as the federal government grew and bloated and bloated and bloated, as it does, is they came up with the Department of Education. Well, before that, they came up with, I can't remember what it was called before the Department of Education, but it was called something else. But they had to, okay, if you want to brainwash a country, you want everyone to know the same thing and be on the same level, bring everyone down to the same level, eliminate creativity, and have everyone just getting the same information. You can't have people getting all this information, all right? Because then you're going to have people with different opinions. They'll be out talking to each other, expressing their opinions, talking about their concerns, maybe the problems they have, solving problems amongst themselves, which is obviously not what you want in America. If you're the ruling class, right? You want workers. You want people that are going to get used to going to one class and learning it in a very random order. Like that's one thing I want to talk about. I got a lot of critiques about the education system. And I will end with talking about how you should educate yourself. Self-education is, I think, one of the keys to success in this world, because we'll get into that. But if you notice how our education system is, it essentially makes you hate learning. Because with very few exceptions, especially boys, we hated school. We were miserable in class. I was never looking forward to class. I would look forward to maybe if it was PE, physical education class, or recess, something outside with my friends. I was looking forward to my friends and cute girls. I was like, okay, well, this Sarah will be in this next class, so at least I can look at her and doze off while this harpy rambles on about God knows what. And so, especially history, in terms of, they make you hate history. Because I remember, and I think most people would agree, that these history textbooks and the way that they're taught is so boring, so unbelievably boring and random. And what I mean by random is like you think we would learn things in like a chronological order that made sense, but instead it would be like medieval history here, French history during the 1700s. Oh, here's the American, like that jumbled together. So you have to like, if you even care enough, you have to assemble this all together yourself, which is something I did afterwards. I became actually, I really liked history after I got done with school because I picked up a few books at after college that were just like, I remember one was called Peter the Great. My mom knows about that one. I recommended it to her. It was like a 1,000-page book, but it was actually written with like some pizzazz and a little bit of like character. Like there was funny stories. You learned about I learned more about European history in that book than I did in school because it was interesting. It wasn't written so boring as to make me hate it. So anyway, it's important for people to understand that this education system, the way it is meant to take the creativity out of you. Okay? Now, there are a lot of people out there, we'll call them normies, that really do defend the education system, and they really do view it as like making, like if you don't go to the through education, somehow you're going to be stupid. As if all you really needed to learn in school is how to read, how to write, basic math. That's it. How to communicate. That's it. The rest you can do on your own. Like let's go through math class in high school. I think it's funny because I was like, one of my nieces just graduated and she was practicing. She was doing her math homework. And I just remember it was like, I'm just chuckling at it because I felt bad for her because it's like people spend so much time on this crap. Useless crap. Polynomials. Is there a use somewhere in the world to know polynomials? I guess. But for 99.9% of people, you don't need to know polynomials. You don't need to know calculus and derivatives. You don't need to know trigonometry. It can be interesting, the concepts. But when people are like sitting there bragging because they know like how to solve a polynomial, it's like, cool. When are you ever going to use that? Never in your life. That's when. Most of the classes that you go to school, you're never going to use in your entire life. And the things that you actually should be learning, real skills, real financial advice, not like GDP and all this crap that they teach you. They don't teach you anything about the Federal Reserve. They're not going to teach you about quantitative easing, how inflation actually works, how corrupt the government is. That would be nice, wouldn't it? But it's just like, I hate to go off on a rant about it. It's just that like I've come to be very skeptical of people, especially that went to like higher universities, but then like never really did anything after that. Like, I remember, so I went to a school, a Division III school in Wisconsin, Stevens Point. And I was talking to this dude at like it was some gathering. And he's like an all right guy, and we were talking about where he went to school. And I was like, oh, I went to Stevens Point. And like with this attitude, he was just like, oh, I went to Penn State. And I was just like, really, dude? Like, okay. He's not that smart of a guy. It's like, but this is how this hierarchy works. This is how the whole point of this video really is not about education. It's more about what's happening to our society as a whole. Is that we're like, it's turning into, I'm trying to think of who the author is that I was just reading. Many people have written about this, but maybe it was Alan Watt. Not Alan Watts, but Alan Watt. How we're going to be moving into the technocracy. People have heard that, the technocracy. Where we're ruled by experts, right? You need to listen to the experts that went to the Ivy League schools. But when you really realize what's going on in these education systems, basically it's just a bunch of programmed people. Now, there are obviously good ones out there. This is not like this does not mean that you can't get something good out of school. It's more like what it does to your brain. It really does just come down to like regurgitation and repetition of, and 99% of it is useless. Completely useless. Again, like the math I was talking about. Or like these philosophy classes. Look, you could, again, behind me, I've got Socrates, I've got Aristotle, I got Euclidean trigonometry back here, I've got Carl Jung. I've got a bunch of philosophy books back here, right? Got them from the library, got them at used bookstores for like $1. You can read those, right? But this just disastrous education system. And perhaps the biggest problem of all is, again, how everyone is taught the same thing. I think one of the funniest things, and I know this is a bit of a ranty video, but whatever, this is just was on my head, going through my head today, is that like people think, it's kind of funny. People think that they're really smart a lot of times because they memorized the exact same thing as everyone else. Like, doesn't that seem odd? It's like, okay, you got an A+ in this class and I got a C- in this class. Like, does it really matter? We're all being taught the same thing. We're all being taught the same curriculum. So you're just memorizing the same thing as everyone else with very small deviation. Now, if you homeschool, okay, now we're cooking with gas, right? And there is a reason why the government does not like homeschooling. I've had people that are like, people in my family that'll be like, oh, well, what if the parents are bad? It's like, what if your teacher's bad? How many dumbass teachers are there out there? I had plenty. Dumbasses, okay? like, they can't get any worse. You almost really can't get worse than the public education. Even if you're like the only parents I feel like that are actually going to want to homeschool for the most part, of course you're going to have bad eggs, but like the only ones that are really going to want to, if you want to homeschool your kids, if you want to take the time to actually teach them, you're probably going to be a lot more into education, actual learning, right? Because you actually have to learn too. Do you know that? Like, if you're going to I've heard that with homeschooling parents where they learned a lot along the way because they're like, oh, well, I've got to teach this history, so I actually have to know it too. So they're learning together. You're learning with your kids. And guess what? You can go get books that aren't in the curriculum. And even the state is coming after homeschooling parents now. They still want to get you in there. Like, we got to make sure that you're basically, they just want to make sure you're learning the same crap as everyone else. There is so much stuff out there, guys. There's so much stuff that you can read about. I mean, I'll have to point the camera one of these times again back to my library back here, but like, there's so much stuff you can learn about, and you don't have to go to school for any of it. Like, in this day and age especially with the internet, and I will go into the next topic there, which is, I just get a kick out of people that hold themselves on the high horse because of their degree or something, or they just assume, like I talked about this in another video recently about this girl online that was like, well, you don't know how to interpret the statistics. And I was just like, she's not smart. I'm like, so I went to school for science, and I went to school for exercise physiology and kinesiology and all this stuff that I talk about, all the fitness stuff, all the nutrition stuff, where all we did was read studies and look at abstracts and do the scientific method. And we had 3-hour labs where we actually did experiments. She didn't, but but they will tell you, like, well, you can't do your own research, right? You can't interpret that. You're not an expert. And it's like, well, are you an expert? No. Then shut up. Like, why are you telling me Just because you can't do it doesn't mean other people can't. You don't have to be a genius to read scientific studies. It's just an article. Can you read numbers? Can you read statistics? Everyone took statistics if they went to college, right? It's not that hard. Bell curve, deviations, percentage, like it's not rocket science. But you can learn all this stuff for free. You can watch YouTube videos. Think about it. 30 years ago, there was no YouTube, basically no internet. So all you had was school. You didn't even know what else was possible. But now you can access and message professionals of all sorts. Academic professionals, like people that you just know, people you like online, people that you never would have, people that were outside of your curriculum. Because before, you went to school and that's it. You got your teachers, your parents, your close circle of friends. And unless you went and did something crazy, like went off and did like a mentorship or some kind of apprenticeship or I don't know, sabbatical, whatever it might be, then you didn't get all that. Now you can do it all for free. And of course, the powers that be don't want you to be able to do that. And they will try to convince most people that they're too stupid to do that. And maybe they are. I'm not, but I don't know. Like, maybe some people really do believe that they're too stupid to, like, actually, like, digest this information. Because, like what I was saying before, if you read 50 books on nutrition, you're not going to absorb all of it, but you're going to see connections. You're going to be able to connect the dots. That's one of the things I love about reading all these books on nutrition. It's every once in a while I'll be like, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I was reading about this in this other book, and I saw this video, and I was wondering about that, and now you just connected that dot. And then you connect that dot, and you make that matrix of knowledge. So, guys, I guess the way I'm ending this is, don't feel like you have to, don't feel like you have to fit into these boxes and bow down to these experts just because they somehow got into Columbia University or something. They might have some input for you, but you can learn everything for free. Pretty much for free now. And you can go wild and go like learn all about stuff that you want to know about, right? And guess what? They're probably going to call you a conspiracy theorist and an extremist and all those, terms. But anyway, guys, that was just a rant. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Let me know what you think in the comments. Peace.